Once upon a time in the bustling city of Oludara, where high-rises kissed the skies and time never waited for anyone, there lived a young woman named Emma. She was bright, ambitious, and always in a hurry, especially when she was late. On one fateful morning, the sun had barely stretched its golden limbs when Emma dashed out of her apartment like a squirrel fleeing fire. Her curly hair danced behind her, her heels clicked dangerously on the pavement, and her bag flailed like a disobedient child. She turned a corner, and bam! She collided with a man so sharply that her phone flew out of her hand and her files scattered like fallen leaves. "Watch where you're going," Emma snapped, rubbing her arm. The man, tall and sharply dressed in a navy suit, raised a brow. "You're the one flying like a hurricane through town." "Oh please," she scoffed, picking up her things. "Some of us have real jobs to get to." The man chuckled coldly. "Then maybe try arriving on time." With an annoyed hiss, Emma turned and ran off, muttering under her breath, "Mr. Arrogant." Minutes later, she stumbled into her office building, late again. She dashed into the conference room, only for her heart to freeze mid-step. There he was. Mr. Arrogant. Standing confidently before the room. "Everyone," their HR manager announced, "meet your new boss, Mr. Hayes Adiwale." Emma's mouth dropped open. Hayes's eyes locked onto hers, and he smiled. Not the warm, welcome kind. No. The got you now kind. After the meeting, she rushed to his office. "Sir, about this morning, I didn't." "Save it," Hayes said sharply, not even looking up from his laptop. "Don't come late again. You've had your one warning." His words hit her like hailstones. But she nodded, swallowed her pride, and left. The next morning, the gods of mischief danced on her roof again. Her bus broke down, the rain poured, and she arrived late. She burst through the office doors, her hair slightly disheveled, her breath coming in short gasps. Her eyes darted to the clock on the wall. 9:07 a.m. Damn it. "Emma," a voice cut through the air like a blade. Her stomach dropped. She turned slowly to see Mr. Hayes standing by the water cooler, his arms crossed, his gaze icy. He was dressed impeccably in a tailored navy suit, his tie perfectly knotted, his dark hair swept back. He looked every bit the intimidating executive, then she felt every bit the flustered mess. I'm sorry, sir," she stammered, clutching her bag tighter. "My alarm didn't." "Save it," he interrupted, his voice sharp. "I don't care what your excuse is. This is the second time in as many days. Don't let it happen again." She nodded, her cheeks burning. "It won't, sir. I promise." He gave her one last stern look before walking away, leaving her standing there, feeling like a scolded child. She sighed and made her way to her desk, trying to shake off the encounter. "Great start to the day, Emma." The day didn't get any better. Later that afternoon, Emma followed Mr. Hayes to a meeting with a potential client. She was supposed to take notes, but her focus shattered the moment she walked into the conference room. There, sitting across the table, was her boyfriend, Mark, smiling at another woman. Her heart stopped. "Mark." The word slipped out before she could stop it. His head snapped toward her, and for a moment, his eyes widened in shock. But then he quickly looked away, his expression neutral. "I'm sorry," he said to Mr. Hayes, his voice calm. "I don't believe we've met." Emma's chest tightened. "What the hell is going on?" "Mark, it's me. Emma." He shook his head, his tone icy. "I think you're mistaken." Her stomach churned. She could feel the stares of everyone in the room, including Mr. Hayes, who was watching her with narrowed eyes. "Emma," he said sharply. "This is not the time or place. Sit down and focus." She opened her mouth to argue but thought better of it. Swallowing her anger, she took a seat, her hands trembling as she clutched her pen. The rest of the meeting was a blur. She couldn't stop glancing at Mark, but he didn't look at her once. Who is that woman? Why is he acting like he doesn't know me? When the meeting finally ended, Emma tried to confront him, but he brushed past her without a word. She stood there, stunned, until Mr. Hayes's voice broke through her thoughts. Emma. My office. Now. She followed him, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. He shut the door behind them and turned to face her. What was that? That was my boyfriend, she said, her voice shaky. Or at least, he was my boyfriend. Mr. Hayes raised an eyebrow. And you thought a business meeting was the appropriate place to address your personal issues? She flinched at his tone. I wasn't expecting to see him there. I didn't know what to do. He sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. You need to leave your personal life at the door, Emma. Especially in front of clients. Understand? She nodded, her eyes downcast. Yes, sir. That evening, Emma returned to her friend's apartment, only to find her waiting by the door, arms crossed. We need to talk, her friend said, her tone cold. What's wrong? Emma asked, though she already had a sinking feeling. Every time I bring a guy over, he ends up asking about you. It's getting ridiculous. You need to find another place to stay. Emma's heart sank. I'm sorry. I didn't. Just pack your stuff and leave, her friend interrupted, walking away before Emma could respond. And that's how Emma found herself standing outside the office building that night, a suitcase in hand, begging the security guard to let her stay in the lobby. Please, she said, her voice breaking. I have nowhere else to go. The guard hesitated but eventually relented, allowing her to sit on one of the couches. She pulled out her phone, her hands trembling as she dialed a friend's number. Hey, she whispered. I need your help. I just got kicked out. She didn't notice Mr. Hayes walking by until he stopped in front of her, his expression unreadable. Emma, he said, eyebrows raised. What are you doing here? She froze. He glanced at her suitcase, then back at her. Do you need a place to stay? Her eyes widened. What? No, You'll need to get to work on time, and it'll be easier if you're closer, he continued, his tone matter of fact. You can stay with me. Temporarily. She blinked, stunned. Sir, I couldn't possibly. It's not negotiable, he interrupted. Pack your things. I'll meet you outside in 10 minutes. And with that, he walked away, leaving her sitting there, her mind racing. What just happened? As they drove to his apartment, the silence between them was thick. Emma couldn't stop glancing at him, trying to figure out what he was thinking. He kept his eyes on the road, his face expressionless. When they arrived, he showed her to the guest room, his movements brisk and professional. Make yourself at home, he said, handing her a set of keys. But remember, this is strictly professional. Don't get any ideas. She nodded, her cheeks heating up. Of course, sir. Thank you. He gave her a curt nod before walking away, leaving her standing in the doorway, her heart pounding. What have I gotten myself into? Over the next few days, Emma tried to keep her distance, but it was impossible not to notice the little things. The way Mr. Hayes would linger in the kitchen when she was cooking breakfast, the way his eyes would briefly flicker to her when she walked into a room. She caught him watching her more than once, but when she met his gaze, he would quickly look away, his jaw tight. One evening, she was getting ready for a date. A desperate attempt to forget about Mark, when Mr. Hayes walked into the living room, freshly showered, a towel slung low around his hips. Her breath caught at the sight of his bare chest, the droplets of water glistening on his skin. He stopped, his eyes sweeping over her. She was wearing a little black dress, her hair curled, her lips painted a deep red. "Going out?" he asked, his voice low. She nodded, suddenly feeling self-conscious. "Yes. Just a date." He stepped closer, his gaze lingering on her. "You look nice." Her heart skipped a beat. "Nice. Thank you." He didn't move, his eyes locked on hers, and for a moment, she thought he might say something else. But then he turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, her pulse racing. A week later, Mr. Hayes handed her a garment bag before an important industry event. "Wear this tonight," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. When she opened it later, she gasped. Inside was a stunning, form-fitting gown in emerald green, the fabric shimmering under the light. "He picked this out for me." She slipped it on, the material hugging her calves perfectly. When she walked into the living room, Mr. Hayes froze, his eyes widening slightly before he quickly masked his expression. "You look satisfactory," he said, clearing his throat. She raised an eyebrow. "Satisfactory? Thank you, sir." At the event, she couldn't help but notice the way his eyes followed her as she mingled with the crowd. When a handsome businessman approached her, Mr. Hayes was suddenly by her side, his hand on her arm. "Excuse us," he said, his tone polite but firm. He led her away, his grip tight. "What was that about?" she asked, her heart pounding. "You're here to work, not to socialize," he said, his voice clipped. She frowned. Since when does he care about that? But before she could respond, he leaned in slightly, his breath warm against her ear. "And you look too good." "It's distracting." Her breath hitched. "Distracting?" She opened her mouth to reply, but he was already walking away, leaving her standing there, her mind spinning. Back at the apartment, things only became more charged. One night, Mr. Hayes came down with a fever, and Emma found herself taking care of him. She brought him soup, fluffed his pillows, then checked his temperature, her fingers brushing against his skin. He watched her intently, his usually sharp gaze softened by the fever. "Why are you doing this?" he asked, his voice hoarse. She hesitated. "Because you've been kind to me. Even if you don't show it." He reached up, his hand grazing her cheek, and for a moment, she thought he might pull her closer. But then he let his hand fall, his expression conflicted. "You should go," he said, turning away. "This isn't a good idea." She stood there, her heart pounding, before quietly leaving the room. What just happened? The tension between them continued to grow, until one night, they found themselves standing in the kitchen, the air thick with unspoken words. Emma was washing dishes when she felt him approach, his presence warm behind her. She turned, and their eyes met, the intensity in his gaze making her breath catch. "Emma," he said, his voice low. His hand reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Her heart raced. "Yes." He leaned in, his lips hovering just above hers, and for a moment, she thought he might kiss her. But then he pulled back, his jaw tightening. "This can't happen," he muttered, turning away. She stood there, her heart pounding, her mind racing. Why not? But instead of asking, she stayed silent, watching as he walked away, leaving her standing there, longing for something she couldn't quite name. The duo spent the next few days avoiding each other. One quiet evening, after another intense meeting, she handed him coffee. Their hands touched. Neither moved. His eyes searched hers. Then, he kissed her. It was soft. Sudden. Sweet. But just as quickly, he pulled away. That was a mistake. Right, she whispered. A mistake. But the fire had already started. Neither admitted anything. They tiptoed around their emotions like children playing with fire. Then one day, a letter came. Emma had received a job offer from a media firm in another city. Better pay. Bigger title. She told Hayes during their weekly briefing. That's great, he said flatly. You should go. She blinked. That's it. I don't hold anyone back. She nodded and left, her chest aching. On the night before her departure, she packed in silence. The house felt colder. Even the walls missed her already. Hayes, meanwhile, sat in his room, staring at a picture she'd drawn absent-mindedly during a meeting. Her laughter echoed in his ears. Her kindness haunted his silence. That night, he couldn't sleep. By dawn, he was at the station just as her train was about to leave. Emma, he called. She turned, shocked. What are you? I'm sorry, he said, breathless. I'm sorry I acted like it didn't matter. That you didn't matter. Hayes. I was scared. I've loved and lost before. I thought keeping things professional would protect me. But losing you feels worse than anything I've known. Tears pooled in her eyes. So, what now? She whispered. He stepped closer, pulling her suitcase from her hand. You come home with me, he said, and this time, not as my assistant. She smiled. What am I then? He kissed her forehead. The woman who changed everything. And so, Emma never boarded that train. Instead, she followed her heart and the man who had hidden his for too long.